And welcome back to the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm your host, Jason Lee, and I am here with Dennis Winkler from Winkler Public Relations. This is the third time I've been gifted to have Dennis in our presence. Really the second time. We were solo 2 of our times, so I really enjoy the opportunity to be in front of him. He's a natural, he's a gift when it comes to speaking in front of others, and I always learn a little bit of something from him on how to do it the right way, so always a pleasure.
Well, Dennis, thank you. You're way too kind.
And again, as always, we're live at the Shell studio here in the Economic Alliance in beautiful old Deer Park, my hometown, and excited to be a part of it. So today we're going to be talking a lot about public policy. For those of you that don't know, the Economic Alliance plays an active role really serving alongside not only the stakeholders here in the region, but the legislative policyholders and people that are, play an active role both with the state government, the federal government even. We're really stepping in to really be the advocate for the voice of the communication between what people need, what needs to be happening in the region, and then how we communicate that to our public offices. And you play a huge role in that.
Jason, we do. We Public Policy Task Force. Our role is to develop relationships with the elected officials at the local, state, and federal levels.
Yep.
And by having those relationships, then we have the opportunity to educate legislative members on what the community needs are. And of course, you know the Economic Alliance as well as I do. It's a rather broad membership.
Right.
So we are representing the interests of municipalities, of small business, industry, large business as well.
Yeah. So to kind of give you that thought process, if you're kind of tuning in and wondering what this organization is about, when you think of the guy who gets up, gets in his truck at 4 o'clock in the morning to get down here to go to work, works his tail off all day. Or then comes back, takes a week off, and is back on night shifts the next week. There's that guy, and we serve him all the way down to the teacher, to the high school across the street. We serve them all the way up to the people who are running and operating some of these refineries, which are global. I mean, they have huge global footprints, and then all the way down to people who are operating the boats out in the water. I mean, it really is touching up and speaking and being the voice for all those people. And so at that voice, there's a desire and a need when people, people don't realize, especially at the state level, how much these leaders are active in their community. These are people who are also business owners, and they're active business owners, and they want to know, what do my constituents say? What do our people say? What do our people need? And you tend to do a great job of stepping in and being the voice for that. And so let's talk about last year, 2021. Tell us a little bit about public policy and because really public policy in general in the last couple of years has just been a whirlwind. Talk to us about 2021.
It has been, and 2021 fits right in with that whirlwind. Look at the state legislative session to start with. There were, you had the regular session, and there were multiple additional sessions that were called by the governor. So we had to pay attention to what was going on during all of those sessions to make sure that legislation that was favorable to our community, favorable to the quality of life here, but also to the job growth here. So that was quite a task at the state level. At the local level, it was also an active year. We have new administration in the county. We have mayors who have changed over in the region. So again, to that theme of having the relationships and getting to know the elected officials, it required the Public Policy Task Force of the Economic Alliance to do additional work. And again, we're having those relationships because we want to have that voice. We want to be sure that as they have questions, in fact, I know you'll bring up this name later, but Senator Larry Taylor, told us one time the best thing that we can do is to sit down with them before the session to talk about what our needs are so that they understand it going into the session, and obviously then go up during the session to lobby as well. And we did quite a bit of that in 2021. It continued to be a pandemic. We all thought that 2020 would be the end of the pandemic, but we were short-sighted. We went into a pandemic, so it gave us a different perspective, and I'll say it was a challenge, but a challenge that this community met like no other. And I'll just take us back just for a quick second on that. During the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, the petrochemical industry, refining and chemical, stepped up. We were the essential industry, and it was important that the Public Policy Task Force shared that with the elected officials, again at the local level, as well as at state level and the federal level. that they knew that we were the people that would help us get through a pandemic, to get through COVID-19. And why do I say that? Chemical industry makes a lot of the plastics that kept our food protected. We make, the refineries make the gasoline, the diesel oil that drive the trucks, the rubber that goes on the tires to make sure that we had transportation bringing all these goods that we needed in. But at the same time, the chemical industry changed how they did business to continue to provide essential resources. And what are those? Again, the plastics that go into plastic wrap to protect the food, the plastic that goes into the plastic shields that you saw up in the HEBs and other facilities to protect the essential employees from, getting the contact with people that they were serving on. Hand sanitizer. A number of our chemical companies switched from products they were making because of the demand for hand sanitizer to be sure we were doing that. And then the personal protective equipment for first responders, those out in the field, first responders, those I consider them in the hospital, those are first responders.
Absolutely.
Gosh, they were heroes, huh, Jason?
Absolutely.
Those people continue to do, a hero's role for us. But again, making sure they have face masks, making sure they have gloves, making sure that they were taking care of themselves, the face shields, the plastics, as we talked about. And then the medicines.
Right.
A lot of chemical products go into making up, the elements of prescription drugs. And of course, the little plastic containers we get with our drugs in. That is part of our industry. So giving us the prescription drugs to keep us healthy and safe, giving us the the little plastic containers to take it home in to keep it safe. And then when you get into, again, the difficulty of treating people with COVID, the respirators, made out of materials that are made in our industry. You're talking about syringes and, plastic sterilization of products in a hospital, sterilization of the hospitals. Those are all things that come from this industry. And I love to refer to it as the original high-tech industry. And I think we demonstrated that we still are the high-tech industry because we actually make products that make our modern world better. And never did we ever see it so needed and stand up so strong as we did throughout this pandemic. Hopefully we'll come out of it in 2022. And if we come out of it, it's going to be because of a lot of things that we do in the refining and petrochemical industry.
Well, one of the things that, if anything, that this has shown us, and you highlighted a lot of that, but with all the supply chain, and the gaps and the issues and the things that have transpired, a lot of that has to do, again, going back to legislative and public policy, trying to ask and demand or command or request more money and trying to get those monies, get those funds. Everybody's jockeying for dollars. Everybody's trying to fight for what needs to get spent where. And unfortunately, while we all wish there was an unlimited supply, there's not. And so, we need people like our organization and the public policy organizations to step into that role. Things like working on working on the ship channel. Things like working on the ability to improve our roads and our transportation, things to get things from out of here out to the rest of the state, out to the rest of the nation. You can be sitting in the middle of right now there's somebody sitting in the middle of the Central Texas that's got some food in their grocery store, or that has supplies in their grocery store, or has things that are in their grocery store, while there's somebody sitting in the Midwest that doesn't. And a singular reason because of that is because of our ability to operate and run this port. Well, a lot of that has to do with our ability to continue to fight for this port and the things that we need in it, and a lot of that is public policy. So with that being said...
Okay, glad you brought that one up, because I want to talk about that. Getting the U.S. Congress to pass the legislation to fund the widening and deepening of the Houston Ship Channel was a major accomplishment. And again, Economic Alliance was at the forefront of that, working with Port Houston, working with all the stakeholders who are involved in the shipping and those who are involved in the product that needed to be shipped. But getting those people together, to work together to be sure that we could get the funding to do what's needed for this port, to keep it open, to keep it strong, and to also make sure it's here for the future. So that was a major legislative win that Economic Alliance played a part in.
Fantastic. You're spot on. So let's shift gears for a second and talk about the upcoming year, 2022, in public policy. This is a big one because I think it's we're in election year. So anytime there's an election year, I feel like the guys in public policy are not going to get to sleep for, until 2023. So I'm sure you'll be a busy guy. But talk to us about that. What does this year look like, and what are the things that are on the forefront?
Yeah, well, you and I have talked before. I love to call this the silly season because we don't know what we're going to face, but we know it's going to be it's going to be very active. This is a unique year. We have had redistricting, and we now have people who are jockeying for positions in some of those new districts, but we also have people who are leaving some of the districts and having people jump in to run in those races. So we don't know a lot yet. We're going to have to get through the primaries, which are coming in the March time frame before we get to November. And so keep your eyes open. Listen and watch fast, because it's going to go fast.
It will go fast.
But we are in a divisive era of politics, and I don't see that changing, unfortunately. It would be nice if we found a way to be more united and work together, but that's not going to be the case. So I think we're going to see a lot of activity on radio and TV with candidates trying to get our attention. That requires us, as the Public Policy Task Force, to make sure that we're vetting the issues, make sure that we're putting the issues out in front of the candidates so they know what's important, again, to the quality of life of this region, to the jobs in this region, and what's important to the small businesses, the municipalities, as well as the petrochemical and refining industry. So we are going to have a busy year. I imagine we're going to have a lot of meetings with elected officials in this off season to make sure we understand what candidates stand for, and make sure we understand what their positions are, and again, through our education of those elected officials, see if we can influence the positions that they will take. And that's part of the Public Policy Task Force.
Let this be a reminder for our audience: if you're actively involved with the Economic Alliance, or you're not, not only is it important to vote, but it's important to engage in understanding the candidates. And there's a lot of opportunities because of this organization, organizations like the Association of Builders and Contractors. There's a number of organizations out there that take an active role in helping you vet these politicians so you can make a decision, an educated decision, because you just said it. We're in a divisive era, and a lot of times, these smear campaigns and these things, it's a partial truth, but you don't really get to the nitty gritty or get to the nuts and bolts of it. Also want this to be a reminder, and we'll talk about him in a second, but we've had multiple state senators, local policy legislators here in the region that have been on our show that share their outlook and share their perspective. You're welcome to tune in, go back to some of our older episodes. We're talking about Larry Taylor, who's been on the show before. Such a gift, such a great man. He's right there in my region in Pearland. And so he's retiring this year, so I know that there's going to be spots like that are coming up. So as these new people hit the channels and you're trying to figure it out, step out of your comfort zone and step into learning and understanding more about these candidates. If you're a member of Economic Alliance, you can come down to the Public Policy Committee, learn and be a part of that, and or seek out the committee to seek out information from them. They're happy to share because they're going to go do the recon. They're going to go get you guys are going to go get the goods on the folks that you can share. Hey, does this stuff matter to my industry, and who fits into that box?
One of the things that we were fortunate to do during the pandemic by going virtual, we still meet in person, but we have that capability to have people join us virtually.
Right.
And during the legislative session in Texas, we had several members, get on and talk about their bills, talk about what they were facing. So let me just make that commercial.
Yeah.
Fourth Tuesday, 3 p.m. here at the Economic Alliance is when the Public Policy Task Force meets. Member of the Economic Alliance, please join us. We will bring in elected officials. We will bring up the issues, and we'll talk about what we need as an organization to represent our community. Now, I want to talk about Senator Larry Taylor.
Yeah.
He has been incredible for us. Again, go back and listen to those past podcasts, and you'll hear the reasonable, sensible policy that Larry Taylor brought to us in this region.
Huge impact on education.
Oh, and I just want to say, he was basically the architect of the education bill. Was it perfect? No. Was it good? Oh, heck yes. And with the work that Larry did, and he didn't do it just during the past session. He's been working on this for multiple sessions, and I've never seen anyone more dedicated to a topic and go off and meet with school principals, school board members, business people, and try to find out what do we need from from our education to fill these jobs. 'Cause we have jobs. We just, we need qualified people to fill them. And Larry was superb. We will miss him. Now, we have several great candidates coming, and that's when it comes back to, let's make sure you get out there and understand who the candidates are. I know we have a state representative who's going to be running, for state senator. We have others who are probably going to jump in that race. Get out and find out which one has the same values and has, the platform that will, benefit this region the best.
Absolutely, and I think that's what's important: being educated and being knowledgeable. And in order to do that, you got to seek it out. So, thank you for some insight. Thank you for some recap. I think that was important. We always like to kind of recap the show a little bit, or end the show talking about the person themselves. I will say this again: I've been humbled to get to know you over the last few years. Beautiful family, an amazing wife. We walk into the room, she steals the show.
She is.
I think Dennis is good.
She's the star. There's no doubt.
She's the star. Yeah. So she lets him be the front man, but we know where the action's at. So, but maybe you could just share a little bit about maybe just some personal highlights of the last year.
Well, and again, it's Winkler Public Relations. I'm the COO. Kathy is she's the president and owner of the company. Ross is our government affairs director. So
Nice.
It's a family business.
Love it.
But we are engaged, and we get engaged by participating. We just don't sit at the meeting and run the meeting. We roll our sleeves up. We get active. We get involved. That's the way you give back. And you know this better
Absolutely.
than I do. Servant leader, right? If you want to lead, you've got to step in and do the work. So we're very pleased to do that. You also asked me to mention this. In addition to being the COO, from 2019 to March of 2021, I served as the interim executive director of East Harris County Manufacturers Association.
Oh, wow.
That's a 115, 120 member trade association from this region, and it was an honor of a lifetime to do that. When I took it on, I didn't realize I was going to go through a pandemic, a freeze, but it was nice to be able to do that and understand that as leaders of that industry, working with other leaders in the industry, we were able to make people aware of what we needed as an industry so that we could continue to serve the community.
Right.
Because honestly, Jason, it's really all about serving the community. Yes, we sell products, yes, we make money, but it really is making sure that we're doing good for the community. In fact, ACMA even has a slogan that says, making good. And that's really what they do. They do good for the community by making the products we need, by doing it safely, by doing it in an environmentally sensitive way. And so it was my honor to do that, through the end of 2019 through March of 2021. Now they have an executive director who I know you've had on,
Mary Jane. Yeah.
She is phenomenal. She's a great communicator. She's a crisis person like myself. So she's perfectly prepared for this role, and is already working on their strategy to move them forward even greater. So I'm looking forward to it, and we'll continue to be.
Well, the region thanks you, and we're honored to have that opportunity.
Well,
right?
thank
so
you.
I think the great feedback and great impact while you were in there. So, anything else before we wrap up? Anything that you want to wrap up for the audience, or anything to communicate?
Well, I'll also say, and I'm going to brag a little bit.
Please.
Mary Jane, as the executive director, and her board of directors actually on December 8th gave me an award as an exceptional partner for ACMA, and I received that, and Commissioner Adrian Garcia received one as well.
Nice.
So, man, that's a nice company when you can sit down and get something that Commissioner Garcia has received. So that's an honor to be recognized, and
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it really is. So, but I've told them I'm success motivated. All that's going to make me do is work harder. I'm going to work harder so I can make sure that I'm doing good, right?
And the thing that I love about Dennis and his family is, and I'm one of those people who tries to be at everything and tries to make sure that I'm in the trenches. And no matter where you go, if it's an important and opportunistic event, that there's a Winkler there. You know,
Well,
there's somebody that's there and being a part of it. And if you can think about that while they're stepping into multiple roles and then being the forefront and the voice for not just this region, but not just this organization, but a number of other places that they serve and that you guys give back to, I think it's really powerful. I think it's really, and then, and you, that speaks to the folks that I know from Louisiana. They all seem to have that. They all seem to have that little grind inside of them that just makes them go. And you can tell that it's not work for you.
That's right. Hey, we came over from New Orleans a long time ago. We consider ourselves Texans now.
There you go.
But we brought those principles with us, and you hit on those a little bit, Jason. You have to listen. You know, that's one of the things that we try to do. We want to ask questions and find out what people need, what do they value, so that we can address that. And then we want to participate. You know, where again, as I said, we're going to roll our sleeves up and work right alongside to get those solutions and do that. And then the final thing is, and I hope I demonstrate this every day, it's certainly my intent to do so, is to act with integrity and credibility, you know, as we perform this. Because in my profession as a PR professional and somebody who is accredited in PR, we are working for the community's good.
Right.
And so it fits perfectly in with what this association, ECMA, wants to do and what Winkler Public Relations wants to do. Is we want to do good for people, to make people better and to make our community better.
Fantastic. And you do a great job of doing just that. So
Thank you, sir.
We really appreciate you today, Dennis. As always, you're just a gift to have on the show. For our audience, if they want to reach out, if you have questions or want to communicate, what's the easiest way to get a hold of you?
I tell you what, just Dennis at winklerpr.com is my email. If you have an issue and you need to get a hold of me, call my cell, 713-259-0195.
Right, and we'll have that email embedded in here, so you guys, if you can capture that, you can go back to the end of the credits, and the contact information will be there to make sure you can do that if you slow it down on one of our YouTube or live channels. So with that being said, I want to thank you for your time today. Again, I'm your host, Jason Lee. My co-host, CLINT AKIN, wasn't able to make it today, but stay tuned as we look to continue to go out into the marketplace, bring great, valuable guests like Dennis, keep you informed of what's happening in your region here across the Port region and near the Ship Channel. We're just so thankful for our stakeholders and for the people that are participants here. Again, you can always go to allianceportregion.com. That's the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region's website. You can subscribe. If you go up there, there's a place for you to subscribe to our content. Each time a new episode is released, it'll hit you right there on the phone, let you know, get you on your notifications. You can stay tuned in. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Facebook, and stay communicated with us. And you can always reach out to me. The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Just hop on LinkedIn, find Jason Lee. You can communicate with me. We're always looking for great guests, great content, trying to keep our, and if you want to hear certain things, if you want to hear some feedback, hey, I'd love to hear about these topics, let me know, and I'll make sure we track down the right guests to keep you informed. So we want to thank you for being out here today and tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.